Warning! This video contains a high level of detail and probably only suitable for official enthusiasts, geeks or nerds. If you are seeking a simpler comparison video, just jump straight to 3815. You have been warned. Hello there and welcome back to another one of my thrilling videos. It's great to be back and thank you very much for continuing to watch and supporting the channel. If it's your first time here, then please hit that subscribe button somewhere down the bottom there, and please try and watch the video all the way to the end because apparently it helps me out. Who knows? So today I'm going to be talking to you about the Sony HVR camcorder range. Well, actually two. The HVR A1E and the HVR Z5E. These cameras come out in the early 2000s. Well, actually this one came out in the mid 2005 and this one I think mid 2008. But during the noughties, we can say that to be sure. We can say that to be sure. So why am I making this video today? So this video really is all about high definition. I was never really the biggest fan of high definition video. When HD first came out, it seemed to kind of just blow everything out. So everything would on telly, in the cinema, if it was a digital presentation, everything would look like a set. It didn't look like a real place. You could see people's skin way too much. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but there was something about high definition, and I guess I'm talking as a cinema fan, a cinephile, that I really didn't like. I just really didn't like that kind of up close and personal look which high definition was providing. And if we kind of cast our minds back when we first got our kind of first look at HD, I'm sure you can kind of remember it being kind of quite overbearing and like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. And it was really only ever good for sport. Everything else, for me, it kind of spoilt. But anyway, rant over. But anyway, as time has gone on, obviously we've been introduced to things like 4K and now 8K. Now, 4K presentations are becoming more normal, but there are still a lot of people using the high definition kind of format because a lot of people on, say, YouTube and a lot of people that watch that content are still watching it on devices that can only output in 1080 or high definition. Hence, I want to talk about this format, but also how I'm beginning to warm to it a little bit, because as my eyes are progressively adjusting to 4K images, I'm now looking at high definition images and almost seeing what I saw in, say, video presentations before high definition. I'm so used to seeing things in 4K now, at least in video terms, that almost high definition looks a little bit rubbish to a degree, and that's good. That's great. So that's kind of like what I wanted to do and kind of the comparisons of the two cameras. So what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to give you a little bit more of a close-up look at the cameras, and then I'm going to return and we're going to talk about a few things that I think are important. At least I think they are anyway. So I hope that's okay. There's lots of stuff in my head and I want to get it all out. But let's have a little bit of a look at these cameras. Okay, here we go. Okay, so in classic naughty style, let's get a bit handheld. So on the front of the camera here we have kind of like your shotgun mic or your directional mic, depends what you want to call it. I don't really care, but it's a microphone. And we'll get more to the audio in a minute. So on the front we've got the nice kind of lens hood, which is protecting the lens. You can take this off if you wish, but I think it makes it look really nice. Moving around the camera, you've got the little lever just there to shut the lens cap over. You have here your manual focus, so if you want to manually focus the camera you can do so. Okay, so we've got the automatic or your manual focus button settings here. Just below them you've got your tele macro button. Press that, it zooms really quickly straight into something, so that's really handy. Expanded focus, I don't get this. I've pressed it and it almost zooms into a quarter of the screen. I really don't understand that. And then you have a backlight compensation button there, so that's not your night vision, but it's like a backlight compensation. Okay, so just along the bottom here, you can see just here, you've got your exposure lever. So when you put this into manual mode, you can control the exposure with that little lever just there. You just kind of, oops, sorry, just press that up and down. And that also doubles as a volume button. Okay, moving along. So you can just see we've got some ports here. Sorry, going a bit too quick. Your iLink cable for the HDV or your DV out. You've got your USB, you've got your component, and you've got your AV out. Switch there and a little DC in area there. So the camera's got a nice little screen on the side that just comes out. Now this, let's quickly turn the camera on a minute. This is actually a touch screen, which I was really surprised about. A touch screen in 2005, and it's actually really responsive. Oh. So really responsive little touch screen. Also in here you just have a little button for the display or the battery info, and then an auto lock function. I've never had any cause to use that button, and I really don't know what it is, and I really don't care what auto lock is. So if anybody knows what that button is, let me know. Okay, so turning around, you've got your viewfinder. It's a really nice colour viewfinder as well. Just don't know if you can see that. That's a really nice little colour viewfinder. Move around the camera. Obviously you've got the battery on the back here, and then you have your switch here, your power on off, and what mode you want to put it in, your tape mode, your memory mode, or your play and edit mode. As we move around the camera, you can see where you put the memory card in here. That's where you slot that in. So if you want to take photographs on the camera, you just press the little photo button there, and then here you've got your zoom controls on the top here. Okay, so moving around here, you have an assign button, so you can assign a specific thing to that button. So say for example you want to have zebraing or whatever it is on the camera, you can assign it to that particular button. I know quite a lot of people used to like the colour bar that would come up on the screen. They would assign it there to make it look like a proper production. So that's one thing there. And then you've got night shot mode just here. That's kind of like your night vision. Okay, just beneath the hand strap just here, if you can see that, there is a microphone and a headphone jack. Very awkwardly placed. When I used the Rode & Go mics, it was really struggling to get that in there. It's really fiddly, but hey ho. Okay, so then moving up to the top, as we said, we talk about the audio. So you have this lovely separate unit that you have to plug in to here. It's in kind of like the link port here. If you know Sony cameras, you'll know exactly what I mean. So this unit completely comes off with this part here and just clips in. But when you clip it in, you have this lovely little audio unit, channel 1 and channel 2 with all your lines and your plus 48 volts for the kind of mic inputs and stuff like that. Really cool. Makes this camera just great. You've got your low cut options on the side here, and then on the bottom here you have your XLR inputs. Now you can buy additional XLR inputs and use various different mics, and that was I mean the Rode & Go mic I can use via the XLR or the option of plugging the mic in down here. So it's a very versatile little camera. Oh, and one last thing, the microphones, left and right. I forgot to show you that. So obviously you can use that as your main mic, but if you disconnect it and have a different audio option, they are your mics. The internal mics, that's it. So that is the HVR A1E, and now we're going to have a quick look at the HVR Z5E. Right, let's have a look at the Z5E. So starting out at the front of the camera, very similar to the A1E in some regards. You've got your microphone on top there, but an improved kind of internal microphone, which is on the front here, so not actually on the body of the camera. And I'm reliably informed that the microphone, the shotgun or the directional microphone on the A1E it is a slightly different model to the one on this camera, and apparently this one is a slightly better microphone, but I'm sure audiophiles would probably tell you otherwise, or why maybe one is better than the other. So we'll come back to the audio options in a minute. So just like the A1E, on the back you have the release for the thing, but just a little bit more, excuse me, a little bit better looking, this one. So there we go. This is a slightly wider angle lens, as you'll see in the video. I wouldn't say it's substantially wider, but it is wider. So we're going to move around the camera, and if any of you are interested out there, you can see it's a 1.6 to 4.1 to 82. This is Sony's lens G. This was considered a fantastic lens back in the day for a number of reasons. If you want to know more about that, I'll provide all the info in the links below. It was 20 optical zoom, and if you see here, this is the first thing that starts making this camera a more professional camera. So at the front here you have a focus pulling ring, so if you put it on a manual setting you can do the focus yourself, get lovely bokehs or all in focus dependent. Then you've got your zoom ring, so if you want to zoom in as opposed to using the other zoom functions, you can. And then here you have your aperture control, so you can also control how much light is coming into the camera or how much isn't coming into the camera. So that's quite a significant difference. You can't detach this lens from the camera, but the camera above this, which I think was the 7E, was the only professional camcorder which you could take the lenses off of. So that's quite handy to know. But this one, you cannot detach the lens. Right, so moving along here, a little bit different to the A1E. So first and foremost, you can see ND filter. So it's on off because the camera does it automatically, but if you want manual control, you have 3 settings to darken the image. So that's a very helpful thing to have. Then you've got your automatic and your manual focus and your infinity focus, and you also your push auto. The push auto I don't really find useful at all, but I'm sure professionals do. Okay, now you've got a little audio panel. This isn't so different to the A1E, it's just a different layout. You can see options for your internal mic, your input 1 and your input 2, and you also have that kind of manual control of them here. Not too dissimilar to the other one, just a slightly different layout, but still nice nonetheless. Okay, so just on top of the camera here, we have the assign buttons. Now there are actually 7 assign buttons on the Z5E. You've got 3 here, you've got 4, 5 and 6 just under the handle, and then if you see just through here, if I turn the camera around, next to the photo button, it doubles up as assign 7. So you actually have 7 assign buttons on the camera. So you can change them to whatever you want. I'd probably leave Zebra AE Shift Recall Review as those, because you know sometimes if you change too many you might forget. But again, just a little helpful function, and kind of points towards it being a more professional type camera. Okay, so just heading down the bottom of the camera. Okay, so we've got a number of different options down there, but ergonomically some of these buttons and layouts are a little bit strange, so we're going to quickly run through them now. So first and foremost, you have your iris exposure. So obviously if you press that, that's when you get to use that 3rd ring on the end of the camera there, and then that enables you to allow more or less light into the camera. Then you have your gain setting, where you can see you can have a low, a medium or high, and if you don't know what your gain is, go and look it up like I did. I'm not going to tell you everything. So then you have your white balance options. Now if you notice, they're like little lines that indicate like where things go. It's a little bit weird. So if you see like the gain, there's a straight line that goes beneath it, which is quite straightforward. Now it says white balance. Now you can do a B or an A setting, or there's a preset setting. Now if you see it comes, the little line comes down and then to the right, and then that indicates to press the button. It's not the best. Same for shutter speed. You press shutter speed and then there's a line that comes out to the right, down, which is basically hoping that you realise that you have the automatic option or the manual option. So if you want to have manual override of your shutter speed, you have to press that manual shutter speed button, press manual, and then you go to select push execute, which then enables you to manipulate your shutter speed. It's a bit strange, isn't it, the layout? Then you have your menu button, you have your picture profile, and then you have your status check button. Now some of these buttons I don't even bother using, but I will provide all the information in the information section below the video. So here's a section just at the front of the camera where you put your tape into. As we turn the camera just around here, you've got the open eject, and it just opens there. So much better, because some of these cameras it's on the bottom. I've never understood that, but that's quite handy. Then you have your battery section here. This little section just here, if I just put my finger, this is where a unit goes called the HVR MRC1. It's a unit that I have, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit more about it in a little while, but it enables you to save all of your recordings onto a CF card, which is absolutely great. They really thought about this camera and future-proofing it when they brought it out. Okay, so moving just around, we have our ports down here. We have a headphone jack there, shut that one up. We have HDMI and your AV out cable. The HDMI is great because obviously you can just connect a small little monitor on top of the camera so you can have a better picture. And then you have your iLink cable there, so if you want to link it up to your computer or other Sony machines, then that is where you pop it in, or commonly known as the Firewire port, as everybody used to know it back in the day. So we're going to shut that up. Okay, so moving around the camera, you can obviously just pop a little bit of wire through there if there's lots of leads hanging around, or maybe your headphones. And then moving up here, you have your memory card port, which is cool. Probably put your memory card in here, store about 7 pictures. No, I'm joking, I'm sure it's more than 7. Then you have your zoom control just at the top here. I really like the ergonomics of this camera. It really feels nice to hold. It is a heavy camera, but it's really nice to hold. So let's move around to the top part of the camera. So I can't remember the particular name. I'm just going to turn the camera on a moment. But the apparently the viewfinder, it was improved, and it was like a lot more detail, almost like an LED. I can't remember, but if you can see through there, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in on the viewfinder, and you can see it's really, really clear. Really, really clear. That's the bottom half of my computer. So that's, I think, very impressive. Moving along the top of the camera, so we turn it around this way, the handle. So there's an area where you can screw in like additional things. I screwed in this so I can kind of put my audio recorder on the top. Always handy to have little screw sections. Moving along the top here, you have another record button, so if you're holding it by the handle. And what I really like is that you've got another zoom button here, that's, you know, your telephoto and your wide. But what I didn't realise when I first got this camera is that there's a small number of options here. And if you look really closely, it says, I'm just checking, yeah, fix, var and off. And when you put it onto fix, and I've never come across this in all my time doing stuff like with video, it really slows down the zooming in and out. So if you're trying to capture something but you just don't want to press that zoom button and it just zooms out too quickly or zooms in too quickly, you put it on fix. It's absolutely wonderful to use. So it's fantastic. Okay, so moving up here, then the cold shoe. I like calling them a hot shoe. You have a fold out screen, and I've always loved the cameras that have these on the top. Again, really, really clear screen. They made real leaps and bounds with these little LED screens. I guess before we could buy little portable HDMI monitors and plug them into our cameras. I mean, there were monitors before that, but the quality of these are fantastic. And as you can see as well, the audio is picking me up beautifully. So we're going to, and just to show you there, you've got the controls here. Stop, rewind, play, your data code, your memory index, everything. So great. So let's shut that. Okay, so moving around to the audio. So this is similar to the A1E in so much as you've got 2 XLR imports if you want. There's my Rode XLR import I bought for this, so I can use the Rode and Go. Again, you know, there are various jacks. I'm not sure, actually. I don't believe that there is a microphone port on this other than the XLR microphone ports. I don't think we've seen one, actually. Because if we move back around here, you have your jack port, but you don't have a microphone port like you do on the A1E. So that's something the A1E has over this camera, is that the A1E has an additional mic port, but this only has your XLR ports. And as you see there, this one is the ECM XM1, which apparently is slightly better. So have I missed anything on this camera? I don't think so. Oh, and there's also there's your not jacks, your switches for both your lines. So I think the A1E had a better layout on the top of the camera, whereas these ones are kind of hidden around the camera. But that is the HVR A1E. I love this camera. It might be, what, 13 years old? Is it 13? I'm trying to do it in my head. Yeah, it might be 13 years old, but I really, really love the ergonomics of this camera. So that's the cameras. So I hope that that's given you a little bit more of a better understanding of how these cameras operate. Or even if it just gives you a brief overview, I hope that's been of use to you. Hello again, and in true real film style, yes, I did forget something, yes. So, as I was talking about earlier, the unit that can be connected here is this beautiful thing. This is the Sony HVR MRC1. It is a recording unit. As you can see on the front there, it says memory recording unit. Now, I had no idea that this was a thing up until I got the Z5E. And why? The reason why this is so cool is because not only can you put a standard CF card inside this unit to capture your recordings. This is only a 16 gig, and I think it gets up to about an hour of recording, maybe a little bit more. But not only can you do that, it means effectively that you can archive your material when you're shooting. And what's so cool about the MRC unit, or the memory recording unit as I should probably call it, is that once it's connected to the back of the camera, which I'm going to show you here, so this effectively just clips in to this area here. There's a little thing you pull out, and all you do is you just line it up and you connect it to the back of the camera. And then when you turn your camera on and you turn the power on to this, excuse me, there we go. Just going to zoom in. Oh, sorry about that. Now sometimes it doesn't load properly, it's fine, you just reformat it, but there we go. It's got 50 minutes of recording time left, it's in high definition video mode, and it's currently stopped, and you can see the time code on that. And what is so great about this is that there's a mode on this camera called synchronous, and you can record both onto tape and onto the CF card. And you can also just record onto tape only, or you can just record solely onto the CF cards. So that's great. So if you was out shooting something and you wanted to make sure that you definitely had your footage, you actually have two ways of recording the information or your data, your video even, on the go. That's absolutely fantastic. And the other great thing is that I don't own this, but when you bought this originally, you got a cradle with it, and you use that cradle to connect. You connected the MRC unit to the cradle, and that had an iLink port out of it, which means you can connect it up to any host of previous Sony cameras. So even like high 8 camcorders and various iterations of other Sony mini DV camcorders, you could connect it up to that and record straight onto CF cards. So not only was this unit forward thinking, but actually it was almost, you could use it retrospectively with any previous models. So just absolutely fantastic, and I will be doing a little piece about the MRC1 later on in the video. Okay, welcome back. So I hope that close-up look of the camera was of use. So the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is the recording options and the format that they used to record on. So if I just reach over here, I didn't even know these were a thing, these Sony HDV digital master cassettes. I've got exactly the same form factor as mini DV cassettes, and I'm assuming that these digital master tapes came out because high definition video obviously was of high resolution, and I'm guessing that a standard maybe mini DV cassette could only capture so much, so they had to make a better cassette. But if I'm wrong, please let me know. But like I say, I had no idea that they made these. I never saw them around, so maybe because they were aimed at more of the professional market as opposed to kind of like the consumer market. But yeah, both the A1E and the Z5E can accept these, and that's no bad thing at all. So the next thing I want to talk to you about are the different recording options on these cameras. Now, I've had to make some notes because it can get a little bit confusing, and you know what, some of this stuff even I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off talking about the Z5E, because that basically gives you, I guess, more options, whereas the A1E lesser options. But just so you know, the A1E could only kind of record in interlaced kind of mode, in an interlaced mode should I say, whereas the Z5E allowed you to record both in interlaced and progressive. And in a moment I'll give you a little bit more about that. But so, my little bit of paper. So on the Z5E, if you wanted your recording format to be high definition, then you would select HDV 1080i. So that's kind of self-explanatory. And then you had the option of either choosing progressive mode, which is the better mode to a degree, in 25 frames per second. But you could also still choose to shoot in interlaced mode, and you had an option of 25 frames per second scan, and it just says 50. Now I don't know if 50 is 50 interlaced. I'm not quite sure the difference between 25p scan and a 25 frames per second progressive. So if anybody could tell me the difference between it, or if it's the same thing, I'd be really appreciative of that. But then secondly, if you then change your recording format from HDV 1080i to DV, I can no longer access high definition video recordings, but I still get to select as to whether they are 50 or a 25p scan, like I could in the HD settings. But I can also select as to whether or not I want to shoot them in DV cam mode or DVSP. Now obviously these are different formats, and I did a little bit of research, and it seems that certain formats used to have a little less dropout. I don't know if that's audio dropout or frame dropout. I don't know enough about that as to be able to tell you as to why you would want to use those modes. But for me, the reason why I'd want to use that camera if I was a professional probably would be so I could record in progressive 25 frames per second. For an example, right now I'm recording on my Canon camera, and that's recording me in 50 frames per second, or 50p. That camera can't do 50, but the Canon, which came out about, I think about 8 years after Canon, I think that's right, I'll correct it if not. So the A1E, it can only record in 1080i. Now bear with me, okay? Okay, I've got it now. So the A1E, you could still record in high definition video, but remember, you cannot select progressive on the A1E. It doesn't exist. However, you can do a similar thing where you can still change it from high definition to DV. And then when you select DV, like on the Z5E, you get the option of being able to select DV cam or DVSP. Why you'd want to do that, I don't know, but I'm guessing it would be you could save more, like storage on computers. But again, if I was buying the A1E back in 2005, my go-to option would have been high definition video 1080i. So I hope that helps. So just a quick one, what recording format is the best? I did a quick search just before making this video, and I stumbled on something from Sony from 2018, so I'm just going to read you it. So it says, for PAL region, which is us in Europe, 50i records using the interlaced scanning system, and 50p 25p records using the progressive scanning system. 50p records 50 frames per second, while 25p records 25 frames per second. If you set the frame rate to 25p, you can record movies which provide an atmosphere closer to that of film images. So all of the video content from the HVR Z5E is 25p. So Sony believes that that gives you a closer atmosphere to that of movie images. So you let me know what you think. 50i is recommended for normal recording. The interlaced scanning system reads even numbered and odd numbered scanning lines alternately. Meanwhile, the progressive scanning system reads even numbers and odd numbered scanning lines simultaneously. Thus it has double information per unit compared with the interlaced scanning system in case of 50p. And this video camera I'm recording on is in 50p. Now, there's one more thing that I'd like to talk to you about in regard to these video cameras, but specifically the A1E, but it could be the same on that. So I've been having some problems. I cannot figure this out. Now, whilst trying to make this video for you, I wanted to be able to show people what an interlaced image looked like. And in this video, there's a short part, I think it's toward the end, where I talk about this. Now, I will also link in a link which talks to you about what progressive scan is and what interlaced scan is, so that you get a better idea. Basically, interlaced scans, all of the image wasn't there all of the time. It was kind of like line, space, line, space. Whereas progressive, it was kind of a lot quicker. And basically, technology back in the day used to fill in the gaps effectively. So if for example you was moving your video camera quite quickly, so let's say you're using an old mini DV camera and you're moving it around like that, if you paused it, you'd get almost two of the person in the shot, which I've included in the video, and I wanted to show you that in the video. Unfortunately, it looks like modern day technology de-interlaces the image for you and basically makes it a progressive scan. Now, I know that there are going to be people out there to say that you can do this, but I wanted to include this in the video because I can't find a way around it, and if anybody knows, I'd love to be able to do it. So in the video I've included an interlaced clip which my computer behind me recognises as an interlaced clip, and it displays it at the top as 25i for interlaced. I've also included the same clip, so I'm showing the same clip twice, and you have an option to de-interlace the clip, and that means that it will make it a smoother clip. But upon looking at it, when I de-interlace it, it looks exactly the same. So if you're following, it's almost like the software automatically de-interlaces it for me, but it still allows me the option to de-interlace the image. So effectively it's a de-interlaced image and it's allowing me to de-interlace it again. This is for the tech buffs. So effectively I have left all of the clips in this whole project de-interlaced because I've got great eyes when it comes to kind of seeing stuff on the screen. I'm going to be honest, I can tell if something's de-interlaced or not, and the whole project looks like it's de-interlaced. Interestingly, when I shot my friend over the park, which you'll see later on in the video, and I shot it in 1080i on the back of the Z5E where I made the mistake of not putting the progressive scan on, when I took the data off of the MRC1 and put it straight on top of my desktop, you could straight away see it was an interlaced image. But when I dragged it into my project, it de-interlaced it. So that is where I've got the screen grabs from to show you what an interlaced image looks like. So if anybody knows how I can keep my image interlaced, I would be very, very grateful. But pay attention in the video and you will see that. And that's something else that I felt like I wanted to talk to you about. So as I was saying earlier, this is what you see when you see an interlaced clip. You generally see two of the object when you move your camera, but for some unknown reason I cannot bring an interlaced clip into my project without it being de-interlaced. So I'm really just asking for support from the community. Here, yet again, here's another image of my friend who we saw earlier sitting on the bench, but it was only because I captured the image via the MRC1 in an interlaced fashion that I was able to capture this. Why can't I bring these into my projects? So if we have a look at here, this is a clip which is recognised on my computer as an interlaced clip, but yet it looks smooth. I'm going to use the same clip here, but this time I've de-interlaced the clip and it looks exactly the same. How can I bring my interlaced clips into my project? Help! Okay, just a few more things before we start the video. I know this is probably going on longer than you expected, but I want to give that detail to people out there. So, if you are going to use these types of cameras today, you have two options effectively of how to get it out onto your desktop computer, especially depending on what you're using, but I'm using obviously an iMac. So, if you are fortunate enough to be able to pick up one of the MRCI units, then you can basically get all of your stuff out and just whack it on the computer via a CF card. And remember, as I said, this is a retrospective item, so you can use this on older cameras. So if you can get hold of one of these, clip it on the back, or get the cradle and connect it up to one of these, then you can get it all out on this. So if you can get one of these, they're expensive. I wouldn't pay more than £300 for them. They're fucking amazing. And I don't swear a lot, but they're bloody amazing. But if you can't do that, there are other ways around it. So with these cameras, and people back in the day used to use them, there were things called iLink cables that were connected to these. If you look on the cameras, it says iLink. Now, I've been a Mac user for almost 20 years, and that's quite scary for me saying that. And what we had to do, we had to buy a Firewire cable. So if I show you the cable first, so what you'd have to do is you'd pop that end into the iLink port on the camera, and then this was your Firewire end. And I'll just show you this cable, just in case anybody is interested. Hopefully it will focus. Focus. There you go. That is a Firewire cable. Now, old Macs used to have a Firewire port on the back, and you would just plug them straight in. Not a problem at all. Then they started upgrading their systems, as Apple do. Damn you, Apple. So what I had to buy was a Firewire to Thunderbolt adapter. But that alone wasn't enough, because Apple upgraded the Thunderbolt port on the back of the Macs. So then I had to buy a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter. So what you end up with, if I get this around the right way, is this long adapter with the Firewire cable at the bottom and into the back of the camera. And it still works absolutely fine. So they're your options, at least for Mac users. You either buy these connections or you get yourself an MRC1. So I just wanted to talk about that, because some people, you know, really do struggle to find ways of getting this stuff off of their computer. So I really hope that that helps. Okay, last but not least, just want to basically a little thumbs up for a little piece of technology which I've recently acquired, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Again, I had no idea that they existed. It was only through doing some work with somebody else that I came to find them, and that is the Rode & Go wireless mics. I cannot say a bad thing about these mics. At the beginning of this video, you'll see me using them, and then you'll see my friend using them, and then later on in the video you'll see my nephew using them. And I cannot fault these. Effectively, as long as your camera either has a microphone port, and this could be any camera, even phone, has a microphone port, you can use these. Alternatively, you can just plug this in to an XLR adapter. So if you want to use an XLR adapter, just buy a cheap Rode XLR adapter off somewhere like Amazon or eBay, plug it in, plug that end in, and all you do is you turn one end on, which is the receiver, and the other side, and the other one, which is your mic. Hello, hello, comes to the receiver, comes through. I have had no issues whatsoever with these, and as long as you keep in line of sight, they are absolutely fantastic. And again, they're retroactive. I could use this with an old video camera from 1989, and I have, and it works brilliantly. So I really recommend. These are the first models. They've recently released like a new line where you get basically 3 of these, 1 receiver and 2 mics. But these are fantastic. Just for your information, all of the videos in this video have been pulled from the tape itself. So just to be clear, what I've done is I've connected the Firewire to both these cameras, used the adapters in the back of the Mac, and then pressed play on these machines or video cameras, and I've pulled the image direct from the tape. Now there is one caveat to that, and I want to do a comparison video using the 5E when it's recording both to tape cassette and the MRC1, because I just wanted to see if there was a difference in quality. But other than that, all of the images and all of the videos have been pulled off of the tape itself. So I just wanted to be almost dropped that on the floor, to be clear about that. Okay, so this is me out with the HVR A1E Sony high definition video camera, and I brought it over to the same place where I brought my friend, which you will see in the next clip. It's quite a good example, because this specific camera records in 1080i, and it cannot do anything more other than that. And the other camera in this review, the HVR Z5E, hope I've got that right, when I brought my friend over here, I forgot to put it into progressive mode, so I actually shot him in a HD 1080i. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So I forgot to put the progressive on. You get the point. This is quite a good test. I've got the Rode mics like I did before, same kind of setup. Technically they should look the same. Now, one thing I will find out is when I put this into the computer to edit, is to whether or not it's going to allow me to keep the interlaced image, because as soon as you put it into a Mac, it de-interlaces it for you. So we'll see. But anyway, this is just a little test using the Rode & Go mics and the directional mic, which is on the Sony camera, the HVR A1E. So it's a lovely day, it's a glorious day, summer's day in July 2021. So, you know, is this camera holding up well after, what, 16 years since it came out? We'll see. So this is going to be the only tripod shot, because it takes a little while to set it up. Haven't got the best tripod. And then after that, I'm just going to do some handheld shots with it, just to kind of see if you can see any noticing of that interlaced image. Okay. So Sean, what's this problem that you've been having with soup cans at the moment? What's been happening?
Well, generally I haven't had a problem with soup cans until recently. I think it's with the invention of the ring pull, makes it so much easier. So all the problems I have been having, I no longer have. I've thrown away my can opener. I don't see the point of that. Even had an electric one to make life easier. But now I don't need anything. Just pull the ring and it comes off. Brilliant.
Any kind of favourite assault weapons that you're
Favourite
assault weapons?
Assault weapons.
Yeah, is there something that you?
Well, speaking of assault weapons, I was looking at, like, obviously we live in the UK and, you know, you can't use firearms, but there are sort of alternative things like a slingshot, and you can get these really strong slingshots with like a leather strap, and I've seen people using them that like smash beer bottles with these slingshots, and I think it'd be a good weapon to have on you. Good assault weapon. Yeah, but hopefully the police won't pull you over and arrest you for a deadly weapon. I don't think it'd be that deadly, but you have to be. I don't know why you're looking at my feet.
It's just a cooler cutaway, mate.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to.
It's like B-roll.
Yeah, B-roll. Love that B-roll.
Gotta get that B-roll. Yes.
You like that B-roll though?
I do like that B-roll. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, I think that's a successful test now.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
That's okay. I would say it's a good test.
Is it alright if I get on with my slackness?
Yeah, I'm going to take it into kind of my shadow. That's very poor, isn't it? I'm trying to get my shadow over you, do I? cigars.
Yeah, cigarillos.
Let me see if I can zoom in on it. Well, cigarillos. Oh, I want one. Where'd you get these? You sell them here?
Debbie's.
Debbie's.
Debbie's?
Yeah.
Who's that? By the way, Chelsea, what happened to your foot? When did you do it? At the England game?
I did do it at the England game.
Where did it happen?
Not in the pub.
Out here?
Hello, Adrian.
How you doing? You alright?
Hello, my name is Ashley. I am 10 and I am from Gillingham,
Which is in...
Kent.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just got my nephew on the camera, just as a slightly different recording. So what I've done is I've set him up at the window. Hello.
Hee. Hello.
He. And obviously, yeah, with the light pouring in, he's largely going to somewhat be silhouetted. So what I've tried to do is I've given myself kind of manual override on the shutter speed, and I've kind of got it at the moment on 600. So what have you come down here for today, Ashley?
Because it's Grandad's 70th birthday, so yeah, we've come down here to celebrate his 70th birthday, and I'm very excited because we are going to Beefeater soon. Yum.
We are. Okay, that's cool. So we're gonna. I just want to get a test with that light pouring in. You're looking pretty good on the camera at the moment. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test out a little light I've got on the top of the camera.
Okay.
Which is going to be in a lower light setting. Okay. So I'm going to stop recording now. All right, and we're going to come back in a second. Okay.
Goodbye.
Now, I'm going to give this little light, LED light, a go on the camera, and we're going to see how much this will brighten up the room. With the various different grades of light. Okay, so I'm going to pop that on the camera. Okay, so this is on the camera now. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on now. I'm just going to go through the colours, Ashley, so just don't look too much at it. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on. Right, so that is a kind of like a white light. What would you say? What kind of colour is that to you?
It's got like squares everywhere. It's like it's gridded, so some of the lines are like grey, and then some of them, and then like the squares are white.
That's pretty complicated description.
Yes,
Yeah.
very.
So is there any change in the light now, kind of as I'm going through this?
Not really. Oh, there we go.
What's that?
It's changed colour to yellow.
Yeah, like a yellowy? Yeah?
Like a yellow orange. It looks like I'm staring at the sun.
Oh, there you go. And that's more orange now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's like the more orangey colour.
Orangeal.
And then we're going to come back down to the more yellowy colour as we go back down to almost like the bright white, yeah?
Yeah.
Let's just see how bright we can get this as well, if it can go brighter. Oh, wrong way. Oh, there you go. Whoa.
Whoa.
So that's as bright as you can get. And then we just run through that so you can see the kind of different tones it gives you. I hope you're not staring straight at it. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for helping me do that little test, Ashley.
That is okay.
I appreciate it. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
So this video is pretty self-explanatory. I just wanted to be able to show the audience the quality that you're able to capture from both the tape cassette and the memory recording unit, which is directly on the back. And as you can see on the left hand side, this was the footage captured directly from the camera. And I think it's maybe just fractionally sharper, at least I did when I recorded this. And obviously on the other side, on the right hand side of the screen, you have the footage which was captured by the memory recording unit. And you know, for archiving purposes, I think it's fantastic. I think that the image on the left just edges it, and as I've pointed out here, for some reason when capturing this, the video output is 1440 by 1080, whereas the memory card unit, or the memory recording unit, captured it in 1920 by 1080. Not quite sure why this little quirk exists, but there you go. So just a self-explanatory video here. This is me cycling through the Z5E's neutral density filters. They start off and they work through 1, 2 and 3, and we're just about to go on to number 3 any moment now. And then the next part of the video is me cycling backwards down, so 3, 2, 1 and off. And those of you that aren't familiar of what a neutral density filter does, they effectively reduce the intensity of all wavelengths or colours of light entering the camera. So effectively, if it's like let's just say it's a blue sky and we put a neutral density filter on, it can sometimes appear even bluer. That's just an example, but if any of you want to give a better example of that in the comments, then please do. This last section is basically the camera without the neutral density filters on, just showing you the normal operation of the camera. Okay, so a quick little test of the HVR A1E in low light. So there's a few little options that I just want to show you. So first and foremost, I've popped the camera into manual exposure mode, and there's a little lever on the bottom of the camera, and basically this gives me obviously manual control of the aperture. Oh, doggies. So right now the aperture is open as we can see the light in front of us there, and what we do is we'll gradually start closing this down, and you'll see less and less light, and obviously the further we go, the less light we're going to be allowing into the camera. So now that's closed. Now I'm going to come back up and do it a little bit more quickly. Looks like Mars on the horizon, but actually it's a street light. So that's your aperture control, but as you can see, it doesn't really do a great deal. So we've got some extra options here. We've got a backlight facility, and we've got night light, or the old, I think that's what it was called. Was it called night light? What was it called? What was it called? Night shot, that's it. I can remember. And all the old Sony cameras used to have night shot. So as soon as I put night shot on, it will disable the manual exposure control. So I'm going to pop that on now. And there we are, we're now in night shot. And whilst I'm in this, I can also get some extra backlight compensation as well. So I'm going to press that now. Apologies about the wind. So this is probably the best that you're going to do in low light using this camera. So that's okay actually, I'd say that's pretty good. Pretty spooky actually. I think night vision mode or night shot, it's lacking in many cameras. It always used to be on all the Sony cameras back in the day. But that's as good as this camera can do in low light. So let me know your thoughts about that. And obviously I'll just turn the low light compensation off to see you back into night shot. And now I'm going to switch night shot off. There we go, and then we're back into basically the normal mode of the camera. To see if I can put backlight compensation on without that, and there you go. That's just the backlight compensation without anything else on. So there you go. Okay, so here we are with the HVR Z5E. I've got my little torch on me, so there will be a little bit of light on the floor because we're out in the dark. So at the moment, you can see that the being outside on a kind of like a low light test, you can see the difference, and you can definitely see more light compared with the A1E. And there's a couple of options on the Z5E, this one here, which the other camera hasn't got, with this being kind of a professional camera. Now it doesn't have a night shot mode, but it does allow you to do more in regards to manipulating the aperture. And there's other extra bits on the camera, so we're going to go through that now. So first and foremost, I'm just going to see if I've got this in the right mode. So we've got iris, or the exposure control, so we're there. So at the moment it's on a 1.6, excuse me, I'm doing the wrong thing there. So there we go, so this is my aperture control, so you should see it getting darker. So we don't want that. This is as I say, manual control, so we're going all the way back up to where we were, and that was on a 1.6. So that is as wide as this lens can go in regards to it being in manual. So if we just pan it up and have a look at the night sky, you can see it's significantly better. Oh, more doggies. Significantly better than the A1E at managing low light situations. So we'll leave it there actually. Now there is another option on this camera, so I'm just going to pop the torch on, and we've got the gain. So I'm just going to press this. And at the moment that's on 0 dB, that's on 9 dB, and that's on 18 dB. So I think where we started was on 18 dB. We've got this is again in manual mode, but if we turn this off, so I'm just going to put this back up to 0, and then I'm just going to turn the gain off. So that is automatic gain. So again, that's the best possible low light situation that we've got. And I'm just thinking we've also got the shutter speed, so we're going to have a little go on that now. So I'm just going to press that now, and there we go. So it's on 25 at the moment. So low light, can we go, oh excellent, 12, so that's better. Can we go lower? 6, oh my god, that's really good. Can we go lower? 3. Now obviously you can see movement getting a little bit slow now, especially the movement of the washing line just there. Let's see if we can go lower than that. So 3 is as low as we can go. So let's just again have a pan up at night sky. So let's just try and find a spot. Let's go there. I'm just going to zoom in now just to see how well it focuses. So we're going to let this settle down. Ah, there you go. And that's actually seeing the stars in the night sky better than I can with my naked eye. So let's see if we can go in a bit more. Wow, that's really impressive, I've got to say. Just going to zoom out a little bit. You should see that star come back into view. So let's see if we can get a little bit closer with that star. Just bear with me. Let's see if we can get closer. I'm really impressed with that, I've got to say. I'm really impressed with the low light capabilities. So that's probably the best that you're going to get out of this camera. I'm going to zoom back out now. I'm just going to aim the camera up a little bit more. So outside in the dark with some light, I would say that is pretty impressive for a camera that is 13 years old. It's pretty impressive. Okay, that's the low light test for the HVR A1E. Okay, I really hope that you enjoyed that look at both the HVR Z5E and the A1E. And yes, my clothes have changed because it's a new day. But yeah, just before I go, I just wanted to finish things up by having a little bit of fun. So if you are interested in picking one of these cameras up, I'm going to tell you what I paid for them. So the Z5E cost me about 430 UK pounds. Picked this up early 2021. You could probably get them a little bit cheaper, but if you're paying around £400 for one of those, I think it's a fair price. But they're an excellent camera for 400 quid. And the A1E, the small but beautifully formed A1E, I picked this up for just over £200. They do sometimes go for a little bit more, but I think that if you can pick one of these up for between £200 to £250, you're doing well. These cameras are still holding their value fairly well, considering, as I've said many times, that the A1E came out in 2005, making it 16 years old, and this came out in 2008, making it 13 years old. And you know, they're different types of cameras, really. You know, the size of these cameras. You know, this one being quite small, this one being quite large. It really does depend what you want. So if you just want small and functional, maybe the A1E. If you want something that a little bit more professional, even if you just want to look like a professional, maybe this will be the one for you. So, as a little bit of fun to finish off the video, as you know, I'm filming this on my Canon Legria, and this is currently filming in 50p. What we're going to do is we're going to cycle down. So, we're going to go from 50p on the Canon, and then we're going to go on to 25p on the Z5E, and then we're going to go to standard 1080i interlaced on the A1E. So, this is me speaking to you on the Sony HVR Z5E, and this is me signing off on the Sony HVR A1E. I'll see you all later. Bye.